Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my friend, co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we have two very special guests today. Terri Simpson, founder and CEO, and Andrea Dobkin, president of franchise development and support at Avanti Body, a brand illuminating the path to weight loss, rejuvenation, and overall wellness through red light therapy. Terri is the visionary leader and founder of Avanti Body with a deep commitment to transforming lives. Terri has established Avanti Body as a beacon of scientific rigor and holistic health, setting new standards in body rejuvenation and overall well-being. She's also recently written a book, so we're going to want to talk to her about that. It's called Rejuvenative Aging, a Beginner's Guide for Those Over 50. And then Andrea, her partner in crime, is an accomplished business leader and president of franchise development support at Avanti Body. With a robust background in business building and strategic focus on health and wellness, Andrea has been instrumental in driving the growth and the expansion of Avanti Body. So welcome, ladies, to the show.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Thank you for inviting us.
I love their pre-show conversation. We're going to do something a little bit different because of that delightful conversation. I have a question for you. When you look back at your life, and even going forward, maybe you're looking at it, would you have a theme, something that seems to show up in your life? Maybe it's a motto you live by or a book you read that you took, a piece of information from and lived your life differently because of it. Tell us a little bit about this theme you have in your life.
Should I start off?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that question. I do have a theme that reoccurs in my life, and one that I've learned to recognize. At first, it was something was happening to me, but I wasn't recognizing it, and it later became something that I learned to embrace, and that was I learned about paradigm shift in a book by Stephen R. Covey of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, and the little story in there where it talks about a gentleman who just lost his wife coming out of a stupor because somebody being angry at him and asking for him to take care of his kids that had gone a little crazy. And sharing that he was sorry, he just lost his wife. And that man went through that paradigm shift. And I recognize that paradigm shifts have occurred. And my first paradigm shift that I didn't know was a paradigm shift because I hadn't read the book yet. So I didn't know this. The first one that occurred in my life was very early in my 20s. When I started my career, I wanted to be a DJ. And I worked hard to try and get a program director at a radio station convinced to put me on air, which I finally did. And it was my first day on air. And I went and opened that microphone and realized that I made a huge mistake because I was excited to be on radio, but I wasn't excited. No one was talking back. It was a one-way microphone. And that was quite a paradigm shift. But it led me to become an associate producer of a show that was local at the time, but it became national. I was associate producer for Rush Limbaugh. And he taught me a lot about radio and the theater of the mind. And I realized then I really wanted a deeper relationship in my life in terms of radio, and found out that, and by the way, back then we found out through microfiche. We did not have the internet. We went to the library and used microfiche, that only 10% of radio stations at that time were run by women, and less than 3% were owned by women. And I set out to change that dynamic. And by the age of 34, I bought my first group of radio stations in Omaha, Nebraska. And and raise money to do it, which I'd never done. I'd never raised money before. Raised money from the local community to buy those radio stations. But that was like one of the first paradigm shifts, and it has continued through my life. But I was sharing a story the other day about the doors closing, the windows opening, and I've learned when those doors close that there is a window that will open, and to lean into it and accept it quickly, because that paradigm shift can complete its cycle if you do. If you resist it, then it takes a long time sometimes to get through that cycle.
Mhm.
Wow. So, Terri, just for our listeners, I just want to reiterate like an example that they can relate to, okay, about the paradigm shift. And you tell me if this is an accurate example. So it would be the difference between somebody cutting you off on the road and you're thinking, wow, what an idiot. They just cut me off, versus thinking, wow, that person might have somebody in their vehicle that they're rushing to the hospital, right?
Right.
So that would be an example, right? Would you agree, of a paradigm shift?
That's a great example of a paradigm shift.
Just something very relatable, right? Because
It's
we've all
very relatable.
experienced that.
Mhm.
So, Andrea, same question that Rebecca asked. Do you have a theme, a thread, a common thread that's woven through your life that you live by, or a rule, a quote?
I do. And Tracy, it's so perfect that you just used that example of someone driving the way that they're driving and us taking it personally. So I just read a book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And the author writes the book about his experience because he didn't love himself and he was so depressed. So he wrote the book with a very simple plan for how to learn how to love yourself. And I realized again, something that's so important. Myself as a person looks at life in a big picture, right? And I'm always looking at things like, look at all the pieces that I have to move at the same time. And there's such a simple foundational piece, which starts with that, loving yourself. And as Terri approached me about joining her in this business venture, and I realized, women, I believe this is the same for everyone, but women specifically really struggle with loving themselves. We don't know how. We don't, I can't blame my mother at all. She did the best she could with the tools she had, but I never learned that, even as a small child. So, as we age and start to develop into these amazing humans in the third part of our lives, how do we do that? So we've built a business where not only can we love ourselves after taking care of ourselves and taking our journey, but help our clients and our franchisees also build a community of people who are realizing, oh, there's another aspect to my life that I didn't realize was there. So it's really just a paradigm shift in how I look at things.
Yeah. I love that your two themes actually are colliding with Avanti body. It's interesting you talk about this love yourself as if your life depended on it, because technically it does, right?
Mhm.
I mean, even if we go back to scripture, it tells us to love others like we love ourselves. We forget that piece, right? That we have to take care of ourselves so we can love each other, build businesses, support others, teach others, but we have to take care of ourselves first. So that is a paradigm shift, I think, for women in general, that we are slowly learning this. I know I woke up this morning, I got to tell you, ladies, and I'm going on 3 or 4 hours sleep day after day after day. I get a lot of work done at night. And I looked at myself in a mirror and I'm going, what is going on? Why don't you love yourself enough to sleep? At least let yourself sleep. So let me ask you a question, both of you ladies. When you look at this, for you, Terri, this paradigm shift, tell us how it has affected you to the current. So you went from, I want to be a DJ, to owning radio stations. Tell us how it continues to be a thread, as Tracy said, through your life.
Well, without recounting every chapter of my life, I think maybe just to say that radio turned into an opportunity that brought me into digital. And that was because when I bought the radio stations, and this is kind of an interesting fact, Clinton signed the telecom bill, and the telecom bill allowed for the roll-up strategy of all the radio and television properties. And that's how we came to know a Clear Channel that became an iHeartRadio, and a CBS radio that became a Sirius. I mean, this is where all that stemmed from. So I bought my stations, and 1 year later, that bill was passed. So that bill changed the landscape of radio, and that meant I no longer was a player in that space. The big boys were going to come in and play in that space. But at the same time, another space was emerging, which was digital. And digital in 1996 to 1998 was very clunky when it came to doing what we're doing right now, doing any type of audio or video. It was impossible to get those packets down that little tiny tube that was called the internet. And I saw an opportunity to use the internet to share assets from radio station to radio station, because we used to get them off the satellite, and now we could send them through this tube, if you would. And so I started a company that later was rolled up in a strategy, was purchased and rolled up into what is now NBCI Internet. And so it was rolled up into that. And so my property was bought in that roll up. But that door closing on those stations led me into digital, and digital led me into many, many different companies, including the company that I was in franchising, where I actually recruited Andrea. So I'm going to fast forward through a lot of digital companies and say that I had expertise in marketing, and I was hired to help a company that thought they were a medical device company. They had spent a lot of money on patents and a lot of money on FDA, and had a clearance for a medical device, and never went to market to find out whether or not the dogs would eat the dog food. So they take it out to the pediatric conference, and they announce they have this great medical device that will eradicate head lice. One treatment, completely effective, eradicate head lice. And the pediatrician celebrated it and said, "Where do we send our patients?" And they said, no, you're going to buy it and put it in your office. Oh, no, we're not. It's a contagion. So I was hired as a marketing strategist to come in and figure out what's the model. What model can we go after? And after doing focus groups and really understanding what's going on with moms, they want to burn the house down. If it's a car crash, they were doing something else when they get the call from school. Your kid has head lice. It's the world stops for them. The world. So you want to talk about a paradigm shift? Head lice. But anyway, knowing that, I realized that I had an opportunity to address an urgent need, and I thought we need urgent care clinics for lice removal. And so we came up with Lice Clinics of America. And I hired Andrea, and we had a team, small team. What were we, Andrea? 7 of us, maybe? 7 of us. And we ended up with 300 franchise agreements, 200 open doors, and planted a flag in 33 countries. And we did that all in 3 years. And that was remarkable, but it also took me down. And here comes my next big paradigm shift. I was almost 300 pounds. I was headed for a double hip replacement. I was taking opiates for the pain. I wasn't taking care of myself at all. And I was spending my life in an airplane seat that I couldn't get out of because my hips were so locked up and I was so heavy. I had the embarrassing moments of having to ask people to help me out of my airplane seat. And that brought me to a point where I had to take a medical leave of absence. I had done a great job building this company. at the expense of my own health. And so a friend of mine had told me about red light therapy and had been marketed to me for a year that I should go and see if it would help the pain in my hips, if it would help me to lose some weight. And she was in facial, she was in esthetician work, but she knew that they were doing body systems. Here I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. Do you think I can find it? Nope. 2018, December 2018, I'm searching for it. I find it 45 miles from my house. I went 3 times a week and paid $1,500, I think, for my first 12 sessions. It was outrageously priced as far as I was concerned. And within 2 weeks, I could not believe I was sleeping on my hips and that my pain was significantly less. And within 3 months, I had laid there month after month, going 3 times a week, and all that traffic in California, to realize I wanted to start a franchise and make this accessible to everyone. And that's how we ended up with this company that is cornerstone in red light therapy. But I had one more paradigm shift to go through, and it just happened recently. And that was you would think about interviewing us right now about being in the red light therapy business. Red light therapy is a modality. My customers told me what business I'm in. I was reading their reviews, and I had 4 locations with the reviews to go through, and I'm looking through these reviews, and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, we're in regenerative aging. I realized the impact we were having on people's life really was women that were either going through menopause or postmenopausal. They were women that started saying, oh my gosh, I haven't taken care of myself, or it's time for me now. Kids are out of the house, it's time for me. And I realized just how regenerative the nature is of what we do. All the modalities we combined together, which were all science-based, I threaded them together, knowing I wanted science to work together, and everything works together there. Red light being a cornerstone of it, but we have other modalities that work with it. And we have really changed lives, and changed lives in such a way. People that have MS they're not cured, but their progression of the MS has been halted. People that have had strokes are recovering speech and walking when they were told they weren't able to do that. It's regenerative. It's what light does for us. So that has been my biggest paradigm shift, is that I thought I was in the red light therapy business and realized that I'm in the regenerative aging business. And that's a beautiful place to be, because when you look at the landscape of franchise, there's a lot of growth in wellness. I think it's the #1 fastest growing segment of the franchise world. And here we have this white space, not biohacking, white space, and it's regenerative aging. And that's where we are.
Wow.
Wow. Your journey has been incredible. Really, truly incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And it's very nice to have Andrea back doing this with me, because I knew that we could be a dynamic duo again, and that we could
I
do
was
it
just
again.
going to ask, Andrea, how did Terri convince you to go from, you just built this massive organization with the lice clinics, to come over here with this whole new idea, kind of out there really initially. So how did she convince you to do this?
Great question, Rebecca. When Terri was just telling the story, I remember her calling me from that San Francisco red light therapy center she went to, and she was like, you won't believe this, but I can do things I wasn't able to do before. And I'm thinking, I've traveled with you. It used to take us an hour to get through the Atlanta airport. I can't imagine this is working. It's light. How could that be? Right. And then she'd say, and I'm shrinking, and so I started as a friend, because I believe that community is such an important pillar in business and in life. And she was my community. We had such a close relationship working together. And when she left, I thought, how will I do this without her? And I was following and supporting her as a friend. So as she opened her first location and I went to her grand opening, and I was really, a cheerleader, if you will, just cheering her on as a friend. And then I was like, it hit me. She said one day, well, we're going to franchise this. And I thought, is there an opportunity here for me? It was really like the perfect time. And I didn't even have a question. So there was no convincing. When she called and said, let's do this, I'm like, great, I'm ready to go. So, because when I look at something you mentioned earlier, Rebecca, the thread, this is my third franchise. My first was in the meal prep business many, many years ago. I launched a beautiful business with some friends. So it was called My Girlfriend's Kitchen. It's no longer. I realized then I had no idea what franchising even was. There was a UFOC. I mean, that's how long ago it was. And I found that I was involved with a business that it interested women. There were so few franchises back then that women were interested in themselves. And then moving to the Lice Clinics business, also very female focused. Women could understand that pain point. And then this business. So when I look at community and I look at passion and I look at empowerment, that's been my trajectory. So when Terri called me, I immediately said yes. And here we are.
I love this relationship.
Me too. It's so
seamless.
beautiful.
I get the impression that Terri is the visionary, right? Like she'll recognize something and be like, oh my God, this is so needed. There is a gap, there's a space. We need to bridge this. We need to bring this forward. And then I get the impression that you, Andrea, are like the boots on the ground, the glue that, maybe puts it all together, the building blocks. It's such a beautiful, beautiful combination between the two of you. I don't know if there's a question in there, but I just had to say that.
You're spot on. Terri is a visionary. She sometimes wakes up in the morning and calls me like, I've had this shift and here's an idea. And I'm like, wow, how are we going to get that done? In my mind, I'm like, there's got to be a process to it. And we get there. And it's beautiful you cannot be in business today without a visionary as the leader.
And the boots on the ground.
Both. Yes, we really have a brilliant team.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to grow a business. A visionary combined with those that capture the idea and are able to execute on that. So, ladies, tell us a little bit more. Terri, you had this incredible experience with light therapy, and now you want to share it with the world. Looking forward, how do you see red light therapy and the future of Avanti body? What's that look like?
So that's a great question, and one that I contemplate whenever I'm getting ready for my board meetings. Our board is a very seasoned, experienced board, and so they will ask a lot of questions about forecasting and assumptions for that forecasting. By the way, I might comment, one of the members of that board that Andrea actually gifted us is Keith Gerson. And I believe you all know Keith Gerson, and
One of my dearest friends, yeah.
Mayor of franchising, and we're very privileged to have him on our board and on our steering committee, if you will. So I figure that you can't really call on a better coach than Keith. He's really wonderful. So anyway, but back to your question. So red light therapy is becoming ubiquitous, and unfortunately, it's a slang term that means many things to many people. So red light therapy could be a box that gets hot inside that is a sauna. Some people will call that red light therapy. It could be a hot works franchise where you work out in a room that is lit with red light. It could be a bed that's at a suntanning place that you get in, and it's a clamshell bed with red light in it. It could be a $250 face device that you find on Amazon for anti-aging. The term red light therapy is very, very broad. And so where I like to make a distinction about where we are is that we are in the business of low-level light therapy, LLT. So there's over now close to 7,000 medical studies on red light therapy. If you really look at where red light therapy is from the science side of it, so at pubmed.gov, for those listening that want to know what I'm speaking of, it stands for public medicine. So pub for publication and med for medicine. So pubmed.gov houses the world's research and the world's scientific papers, and is also where we can find clinical trials. And red light therapy is no different. And so you can look up red light therapy, but the actual scientific term is photobiomodulation. Photo meaning photons, that's how light comes in photons. Bio, because our bodies have a bioactive response. Modulation, because the way our cells modulate the light energy. So where we're leaning into is that we are practicing with low-level laser technology. And so we use pad systems that are very close to the skin. And the reason is light dissipates as it travels. We don't want it in a box bouncing around as photons. We don't want it in a bed bouncing around. The photons are refracting the light from laying on plastic. We don't want it on walls you stand in front of. We want it close to the body so it can do its work deep inside the body at the cellular level. And that's where we lean into. And a little mention about Avanti. Why the word Avanti? Why didn't I call it Red Light Centers of America? I just built Light Clinics of America. Why didn't I call it Red Light Centers of America? The reason is modalities change, technology changes. And I knew I wanted to develop a franchise that had long shelf life. So I didn't want to pigeonhole us into something that there may be a big fundamental shift at some point, and we may say there's another and better way that we need to be practicing, right? So that's the reason. And Avanti is an Italian word. It means forward. So it's about forward body. And that's what we do. We move everyone's bodies forward, no matter what it is that they need to improve upon.
So that kind of leads into my question, and thank you for that. And my question is for Andrea. So can you tell our listener, Roxanne, why she needs to put on the red light? Like what is the red light therapy good for?
That's funny.
On the red light.
I got
That's
it.
brilliant.
That's hilarious.
I love that, Tracy. Well, it's interesting, as women, and 94% of our clients are women in the age of early 50s. So when a client comes to us and we sit down and we do a very thorough consultation, if you will, a wellness consultation to identify where their pain points are. And some of them are physical pain, some of them are emotional pain. So we look at that. And when we talk to a client about what our modality really does for them, we see clients who are looking for weight loss primarily. And I've had an experience similar to Terri's. I was 80 pounds heavier 3 years ago. And with a combination of a weight loss program that we offer and red light therapy, I've decreased my fat, I've contoured my body. I have severe arthritis in my hands and feet. It was debilitating, and now that inflammation is gone. So light will benefit, and the expected outcomes are reduction in pain and inflammation, muscle recovery. So we have people who are athletes that come to us. There are Olympic training centers throughout the country that use a similar low-level laser therapy. So athletes that come from CrossFit really like our technology because it's going to help reduce the pain in their muscles so they can do more and recover. Terri mentioned earlier MS. We've got clients who've got autoimmune disorders, Lyme disease, rheumatoid arthritis, those types of illnesses, what the light is doing is it's going in at the core of the body and reducing the pain and inflammation by helping increase our health of our mitochondria, which is now a buzzword that most people didn't know. That's the battery pack to the cell. So light is going to produce the adenosine triphosphate or ATP into the system, which assists with that reduction of pain and inflammation. But then on the other side, it's increasing that mitochondrial health. So it's regenerating cells, regenerative health as well. So many people come to us for fat loss. They really do. Light will actually penetrate the fat cells and deplete it of the fat and toxins stored there. Terri mentioned aging. So reversing aging, we're increasing our collagen and elastin with something as simple as light. And then there's the benefits. Rebecca, I can't wait for you to try our systems because it aids with sleep. So there's a boost in your melatonin. So you can actually sleep and rest, because that's one of the pillars of success in life, is having quiet time and resting. So those are just a few of the benefits of light. So when someone sits across from me at a consultation and says, these are the things that I'm struggling with, it's just simple light. It's the good light from the sun without the UV rays. I hope that was helpful.
Tracy, is why a woman should go under the red light.
Exactly. It's like if you could imagine, because Terri mentioned their pads that touch the skin, you're lying down in a beautiful spa-like environment, closing your eyes, and it's a warm hug. It's like being cocooned. It's not heat. It's not meant to make you sweat. It's warm, and it feels like you're in just a cocoon and a warm hug. It's so peaceful and relaxing. And we have meditation music, so clients are really in a zone, if you will, and they're getting that moment. Our memberships are called me time memberships because our clients used to say, this is my me time. So we realized how important that was, and having a membership model versus what Terri was paying is $1,500 for sessions. We have an affordable membership model, which is great from the client perspective and for the franchisees from a recurring revenue perspective. So Tracy, I hope if you were a client, you would be interested in a membership, because it's really such a beautiful technology that aids us in our lives.
Yeah, it sounds like a great experience.
I'm
It
ready.
really is.
I'm ready. Let's go, girls.
I'll meet you there.
Yes. Oh, ladies, I wish we had another hour at least, because you're talking passions of Tracy and I, health and wellness, and this red light therapy is such a big part of the body healing. And I love that you threw out the word mitochondria, because that really is the battery of our bodies. And when we're exhausted, it's usually because we have issues at the mitochondrial level, and red light does indeed help with that. We're at the top of the hour. Where did it go? It's crazy. So I only have one comment before we do a wrap up, and that is the way, as Tracy pointed out, the two of you have come together and built not just this wonderful business and this synergy between you, but this deep relationship, this friendship where you respect and appreciate each other. You've come together as true partners and as friends to build something that is going to help a whole lot of people. And we here at the Franchise Woman, I don't know where my brain is going. The Franchise Woman are all about those relationships, and you personify it, ladies. So thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
So good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca and Tracy.
This has been fun. And Tracy, I always punt it to you because you have the most beautiful wrap-ups. So over to you, girl.
Rebecca, just, for the sake of time, I think what I'm really walking away with today is this beautiful marriage, this blend between paradigm shifts and loving yourself, because as women, that's what we really do need to do. We're born nurturers. Right? We take care of everyone and we love doing it. We do it with love, joy, passion. And there comes a time where we need to have that paradigm shift to take care of ourselves and put our own red light on, right? And take care of ourselves. Love that. So thank you both for joining us today. And this was a wonderful interview, just flew right by.
It did.
That's wonderful.
And thank you to our audience today. Make sure to share, like, comment this interview so others can benefit from it. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.